Hello everybody, it's Starrapter here, and I cannot stop thinking about Star Wars Legion. It's this brand new tabletop miniature game coming out from Fantasy Flight Games very soon, so I decided I want to make a video about it. I want to talk about the miniatures, I want to talk about how the game is played, and the potential for the game in the future. So Fantasy Flight Games, they announced this game back in the summer, and it's slated for release Q1 of 2018, so that could mean next week, that could mean in March. We don't have an exact release date yet. So Fantasy Flight Games, they are no stranger when it comes to the Star Wars license. They have done Star Wars Armada with more of the capital ships. They have done the X-Wing series, which is very popular. They've also started up this new Destiny card type game, as well as Imperial Assault and Rebellion, and there's probably a couple other games that I can't really think off the top of my head about what they are, but you get my drift. These guys know Star Wars very well, so I'm super excited about that. And this game is pitting the Rebellion against the Empire. This is during the Galactic Civil War, so this game basically uses tiny little guys about this big, some vehicles. You're going to have a massive amount of units, and it's played on a big table, and there's objectives and whatnot. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later on in this video, but first I want to talk about my history with tabletop miniature gaming. So I was about 12 or 13 when one of my friends introduced me to Warhammer 40K. Now that is like the flagship kind of thing when you talk about tabletop miniature gaming. Everybody either mentions Warhammer or Warhammer 40K, which is more of the science fiction version. And at the time, I was like, okay, there is no Star Wars kind of game like this, so I'm going to pick the most similar things to Star Wars. So I went with the Space Marines, of course, which, kind of mimics Stormtroopers in a way. I picked the Ultramarines, and that game is, you basically build these miniatures up, you glue them together, you prime them, then you paint them, and I love that whole aspect of customization, of just getting in there, choosing your colors, putting them in certain poses, and just picking out different units to fill out your ranks. I played the game with some friends, never really did anything officially with like any great boards. We just put cardboard boxes around this terrain, and we had a good time. But I enjoyed more of the act of acquiring these models and just painting them and taking my time, using my hands. It's definitely a nice diversion from the video games that even back then I was playing a ton of. So now fast forward here, and we finally have a Star Wars caliber game that's going to look like it rivals that of Warhammer 40K. They are going all out. So let's talk about the miniatures themselves. So very similar to Warhammer 40K, you're going to get a box of these things. They're not going to be assembled. There might be like 3 or 4 parts. They're all plastic, it seems like. So you're going to have to glue them, then you're going to have to prime them, then you're going to have to paint them and whatnot. And that to me is really, really fun, especially now that they're Star Wars. You can paint your rebels any kind of way with their different kind of paint schemes. Stormtroopers are going to be pretty standard, but that's kind of how things roll with this game. Is it's going to be very hands-on. From what I know about the X-Wing series, they all come pre-assembled, painted, and whatnot. But this, to me, is a lot of fun. Again, it's a hobby. It's like an enthusiast hobby. So these things aren't really cheap at all either. I have to say, the barrier for entry could be kind of high for the finances, but I'll get by that, or, try to at least. So let's talk about more of the units themselves. So I believe we have 5 different units. We have commanders. We have commanders like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, you have Leia Organa, and you have General Veers, and all these guys kind of command their troops in the vicinity of your troops. They have special commands and whatnot. Then let's move into the corps, the troops. So you're going to have your snow troopers on the Empire side. You're going to have your stormtroopers on the Rebellion side. You're going to have your fleet troops kind of seen in A New Hope, as well as you're going to have your Endor soldiers. So that's pretty cool. You have a lot of diversity there. It's also going to include support units. So support units right now we have for the Rebellion, we have the AT-RTs. I'm super pumped about that because before you even see the Rebels on the AT-RTs in Battlefront 2, they actually announced this game prior to that. So this game is making new ground for the canon, and it has been known that this game is working hand in hand with Lucasfilm, so all this stuff is going to be authentic. We're not going to have a lot of legend. We're not going to have any legend stuff. Like, this is all canon type of material. Again, we're dealing with the Galactic Civil War. So then talking on the Imperial side for the support units, we're going to have a pair of Z-47, I think is the name, speeder bikes. Yes, the speeder bikes from Endor. Scout troopers on top. Really, really cool stuff there. And then for the heavy units, we're going to have the T-47 snowspeeder, as well as on the Empire side, we're going to have an ATST, and this thing looks huge. it's going to be a presence on the battlefield that you're going to want to run away from, because this thing is going to cause devastating damage. And finally, they haven't revealed any troops for these specific units, but we're going to have special forces for both the Imperial side and the Rebellion side. And that's going to kind of flesh out your army. So now that you guys know what kind of units you play with, how do you play this game? What surface do you play this game on? Well, it's preferred that you play this game on some kind of board that has terrain. So there are terrain rules in this game. If you have your guys behind cover, they might have more of a chance of surviving versus somebody who isn't. So people play this game. Standard is going to be on a 6-foot by 3-foot board. You can also cut that in half and have a 3-foot by 3-foot game for some of the more demo type experiences out there where you might be going to your local hobby shop to try out the game, something like that. Now, getting into the rules themselves, what makes this game to me more appealing than Warhammer 40k is the kind of dynamic rules. I mean, I haven't looked at Warhammer 40k in a while. It's been years, so 10 years ago, it didn't really appeal me that much. But what this game does is every battle seems like it's going to be different. Every time you start the game, you're going to have different cards that you select from, because this game does rely on cards for unit rules and stats, as well as how the environment will change. So you can have one game where there's going to be a sandstorm. It's going to affect visibility. You'll have to, roll extra dice and whatnot, because the game uses dice for that. And you can kind of spread your deployment zones for where you kind of spawn your troops in at the beginning of the game. It looks very dynamic in a way that you're actually going to give your orders to your troops. So you guys are kind of going simultaneously between the enemies choosing his and you're choosing yours, kind of back and forth. So it's really, causing you to kind of act on the fly, which is something really, really interesting. Besides that, it's going to be using, like I said, cards instead of a rulebook. One of the big barriers for me to play Warhammer 40k was just the whole tedious process of, I forget this kind of stat. I have to go through the book now and take, 3 minutes out of the action to kind of look for something that gives me help with the stats. Everything in this game is going to be based on like little trading cards. Every unit expansion, everything you buy is going to have these little trading cards. So very simple to refer back and see what exactly you have to do. And talking about the dice are not your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 normal dice. These are their own dice with their own symbols on it, which is kind of cool, but it's also a way for these Fantasy Flight games to get more money out of us, because at the start of this game, they're already automatically having different kind of rulers and different kind of things to really make you have to buy their kind of, their stuff there. So it's definitely a money-making scheme, but it also kind of looks pretty cool. And the game actually, rather than eliminating the entire enemy team, right? So these games are going to be played, I believe, in 6 turns. So by the end of the 6th turn, you kind of evaluate each side and you see who wins. So now one side might have a couple enemies left, your side might have a couple guys left, but what really matters is this game's going to be focused on objectives. So you could put down like maybe 3 different markers in a random location, and you say, hey, you have to get your troops over there, and whoever controls the most of these points by the end of the 6th turn wins. So if there are enemies standing on the thing, you're gonna have to kill him and take it over, kind of thing like that. So that to me is more appealing. I don't really like, even in shooting games today, it's like, okay, kill all these people and you win. Like, that doesn't really, I don't like that too much. That's why I like Overwatch as a game, because you're working as a team with objectives. So it's kind of like the same scenario here. You're not really worried about kills as much, more as objectives. Now, that's not saying you can make up any rules you want. If you want to play this game, you could just be like, okay, we're playing this game mode where we're going to kill all of each other, and whoever kills the other person first wins. And you could do that. But in an official environment, going to your hobbies shop or going to or just playing in your basement or a tournament, you might want to just go by their actual rules because they look pretty good. So that to me is kind of a glance at how this game is really played. I hope I kind of explained enough of that, but I want to move on to how I'm preparing for the game. So I'm just going to say right here, I'm all for the Rebels, guys. I mean, I love the Rebels so much and I love the Stormtroopers so much. It's really, really cool, but I've always been a Rebel guy, so I got to stick with the Rebels. And I forgot to mention, this is a really good point, because if you're looking to get into this game, they actually have a box set, and it's called the Core Set. So the Core Set is going to provide you with enough stuff to actually get a small game started, right? So you're going to get your 2 squads of stormtroopers. You're going to get 2 squads of rebel troops. You're going to get Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, who are the commanders. And you're going to get the 1 ATRT and 2 speeder bikes, as well as the dice that's needed and the little special ruler measurements and the rule book. And I think you get a couple pieces of terrain, which is going to be very useful. So yeah, that's what everybody is going to be buying when this game first comes out. They're going to release the core set along with basically the ATST and the snow speeders and a couple more of the stormtroopers and the rebels. In Wave 2, they're going to have Leia, the Rebel Fleet Troopers. You're going to have Veers as well as the Snow Troopers, so keep in mind with that. So yes, I am declaring myself for the Rebels. Right now, I'm actually preparing for Legion. So what I'm doing is I'm actually buying terrain from this one company called Imperial Terrain. They're a great company. They're not officially sanctioned by Lucasfilm or Fantasy Flight Games. They're their own little entity, but they make really, really cool terrain, like little desert housing that's kind of like Tatooine type stuff and little barricade stuff. So I plan on getting that. I also bought a kind of a mat that I'm going to be showing off in a future video, which is going to be the surface that I'm playing on. I'm trying to build a Tatooine map, basically. So that's going to be really, really fun. So I'm doing a lot to try to prepare for this, and it's fun to try to paint these things and making my own terrain out of styrofoam. That's something else I've been doing, and I've noticed it's a lot of work and it's very messy. So if you get into that, yeah, you might want to do this when your parents aren't home, because the styrofoam gets everywhere and they'll freak out and everything like that. But yeah, now let's talk about the potential for this game. Why I like this game so much and it's not even out. The potential for me is boundless, right? They're focusing right now on the original trilogy, the Galactic Civil War, right? But as Star Wars fans, we know there's so much out there besides that. There's so much potential they can tap into with, let's say, the Clone Wars themselves. Think about it. All the different battalions, the different legions of the clone troopers. I would definitely go 501st, but I mean, there's a whole bunch of other ones you can go down. You can go like the Wolf Squad, Wolf Pack, whatever they're called. All the different Jedi commanders. And you can kind of branch into the novels and the comics, like have like Inferno Squad. Then you can have the Death Troopers from Rogue One. You could have Saw Gerrera's Partisans. You can go into the sequel trilogy eventually and have the First Order and the Resistance and all these other types of vehicles. I mean, this game could be massive, and then they could have like a whole nother expansion with like Scum and Villainy. From Rebels, you can have like maybe they can have an entire Mandalorian type. I could just keep going on and on. I could probably just make a whole nother video of just what I think they could make, and maybe I'll make that one day. That'd be kind of fun, actually. But that's what I mean, like the potential for this game and the actual potential for this entire industry from this game alone could just speak volumes for the miniature games. I mean, Star Wars is the most well-known property for entertainment, I think, out there. I mean, everybody knows about Star Wars, about Vader, right? So if they see a little cool game like this, they might want to try it. And when they try it, then it might open their doors for other games like Warhammer and Warhammer 40K and stuff like that. But, I mean, if this game is that good, no one's going to want to play anything else. But with that being said, I mean, I think I covered as much as I wanted to, at least in this video, talking about Star Wars Legion. And as you can tell, I'm very hyped, I'm very excited, and I just can't wait to actually get my hands on these miniatures. So what you guys can expect from my channel going forward, talking about Star Wars Legion, I'm going to try to put out some content on a pretty regular basis, depending on how soon this stuff is released. I might do more videos like this where I just do think pieces and opinions and stuff like that, and speculation videos maybe. But I will be doing unboxings. Like I said, I'll be doing an unboxing of the core set of this mat I'm going to get. Maybe I'll do an unboxing of terrain and stuff like that. So definitely make sure, if Legion sparks your interest, definitely make sure that you subscribe to this channel, so that way you're notified in the future of other videos. But that being aside, I have lots of other content on this channel. If you're new to this channel, welcome, because I have lots of other Star Wars content. I talk about the comics, the novels, I do some gaming content in general, as well as a movie review every once in a while. So definitely check the channel out. If you like this content, make sure you give me a subscribe. It helps a lot. And that is going to do it for me, Starrapter. I want to thank you guys for watching, and may the force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.